Hey, it's me, Chloe.
I'm Cal.
Today we are going to be talking about our homeschool experience.
Yes, our homeschool experience.
Okay, let's start by clarifying the difference of homeschooling, home study, and online
Online
classes.
classes.
I just got curious because when I went back to regular school, I met former homeschoolers as well, but we have different experiences.
Yes.
So, why did we have different experiences? Homeschooling has two categories.
Mm-hmm.
There's home study and home education. Home study is actually more of a teacher and student interaction.
Home study has their own curriculum. It is less flexible than home education. Home education, on the other hand, is focused on child to parent relationship, and it has a more flexible curriculum on what the family prefers.
I think my brother is more qualified to answer the difference of online classes.
As of the moment, I am enrolled in UPOU, and it is online. If you don't know, it is different from homeschooling, as homeschooling is physical with books and physical with the learning. My online classes, it has interaction, but the interaction between homeschooling is different, and we interact with our fellow classmates through forums, and our live classes is into a bare minimum. It is not live but pre-recorded, and we are given materials. That's the similarity between them. But overall, it's online.
Okay, so we just want to clarify that his online classes is different from the forced online classes that we had
Yes.
because of this pandemic.
It is different from the first online classes because it has a structure, and it has been improved over time, and it has been there for a while. So it is not something that has popped up out of the blue just to cope up with the pandemic, but rather it has been there for a while, and it has shown that it is capable of standing on its own and has proven itself from time to time through the graduates that have graduated from UPOU.
Okay, so now that we have that all cleared up, let's start with our first question. Why did we homeschool?
I think our reason is the first thing would be our parents wants us to learn more from what we are learning in the average school. Hey, don't get me wrong, you learn stuff there, but there are things that aren't taught in the average school. One of them is the value of character building. Character building is an essential for being what you can call a successful person. For me, character building is something that is so important that I would value it over academics. And I think that's how my mom and dad saw it. What they believed when they homeschooled us is that if we have a good character, then everything would be okay. Grades, as long as we did our best, it was okay. As long as we did what we can do, it was okay for them. Because they know that with our character built, everything would fall into place. So that's the reason, or what I think the reason is, why we homeschooled.
Aside from character, our parents wanted to focus on our relationship with God.
Yes.
Above all, as in above all, our relationship with God, because again, that should be our priority because the rest would follow. Our character would follow, our academics would follow, our relationship with everything would follow, everything follows. It wasn't a decision that just popped in our parents' mind.
It
They
was well thought, actually, well prayed for.
Yes, because on our last year of regular classes, they were praying for it. So they prayed over it for a year because homeschooling won't be easy. That would mean they would take a lot more responsibilities
True.
on their shoulder than what they are used to.
May I just add that homeschooling is not something that is for the kids only. It is not something that you leave your kids with, they study, and you do what you do. No, it is a family decision that your family would homeschool and would learn, the parents would teach their children, and the children would learn from their parents. It is a structure that involves the whole family in the process.
Was our parents protecting us from the real world?
So a lot of people have been telling us that the reason that people homeschool is because the parents are protecting us from the real world. Well, I would like to tell you that I was actually more exposed to the real world than when I was in my conventional school. I would go to events that I don't usually go to. I commute a lot. When I was homeschooled, I would travel to a village where I would train in like every week. And you can't do that on a regular school. I would meet a lot of people that I'm not afraid to talk to because I was in an environment where you can talk to everybody and you are not just limited into your own age group. And it was not mainly about protecting us, but letting us learn more in a different way.
Okay, moving on. So let's talk about the transition.
Alright.
From traditional to homeschool. Did we miss being in regular school? I did not miss being in regular school. More like I missed being around my friends. I know, like, because my final year in regular school, I was actually in grade 4. I was 9. So it was such a load for me because I had to balance extracurricular activities with my school, and then I had to go home late. I had to wake up early. I did not miss waking up early. I remember being in regular school and I was crying because I badly want to homeschool. I did not want that life. I didn't feel like school is great. I just felt like it was a drag. I missed my friends, but not the school itself.
Well, when homeschooling picked up, I missed my friends. I missed how they would hang out na without me. Lalo na yung best friends ko. They would hang out without me. And I was at home studying. Well, studying whatever I wanted to study. Because we didn't have materials at the start. But you'll find about that later. I was starting to think na maybe homeschooling wasn't for me. But as the years went on, I loved the homeschooling compared to conventional. I have gotten more friends. I wouldn't say na my friends before aren't my friends na. I still talk to them. I really do, and I still love them. It is not something to be afraid of when you homeschool.
How did we start homeschooling? I just want to let you guys know that we started with nothing. Like, we barely knew what homeschooling was. And fun fact, we had no materials when the school year started.
Our dad ordered our materials from the US, and it got delayed. We don't know why. All we know is it was part of God's plan. So imagine we don't know what homeschooling is. We've never been homeschooled. We have no materials. We have no desks. And our school year has started. What we would do in those few weeks is that we would find things to learn. Our Wi-Fi, well, it wasn't even a Wi-Fi that time. It was a connection now. Our internet wasn't that reliable, so we had to look for books. Our old books, we would learn things from them. We would watch things on TV. I would watch Dog Whisperer. This was the time I learned how to train dogs. It's a skill I still know until today. It was what you won't call a transition, but rather it was a nosedive into homeschooling without knowing what to do and just picking it up on the way. I miss my friends. I have nothing to do but to learn on my own. Pero with the grace of God, I managed. And that goes our first year.
So now let's talk about the school load. Types of works you do. Is it as heavy as our school works in regular school? I could say that homeschooling was such a breather for me because we didn't really have to have that much school works. But then again, we could still stay on track of our school year because we are responsible for our own schedule. Okay, so the thing about homeschooling is every family has a different homeschooling routine. And we constructed our homeschooling routine based on our family's lifestyle.
The load is not that heavy. I do a lot of things, not just studying. I learned how to play guitar. I walk my dogs. And of course, since you're at home, you are not exempted from chores. And with those things jammed into the day, I would say that it is still a lighter load than a conventional school. Because this time around, I get to manage my schedule. I get to pick the things I want to do today. As long as I reach the goal I have to reach for the week.
How about the transition from homeschool to traditional? For me, it's different for everyone, and I'm not generalizing every homeschooler because, again, we are all different. Some are introverts, extroverts. I personally am an ambivert, so we handle things differently. I was actually excited to go back to traditional school because I'm curious to know how I would handle it. I'm the type of person who's shy at the start, but then as time goes by, I get very talkative, and I'm only talkative or energetic around people that I trust the most. So going back, when I introduced myself to everyone, I was kind of awkward because that's really me. That's just me. But I think everybody's impression of me was I was so quiet, and then they got intimidated because I speak in English. But I just want to let you guys know that language is not the basis of intelligence. So please do not judge people based on the language that they speak, because that's not nice. That's not great. But back in homeschooling, I've always been close to titas and the moms and the parents, because I don't know, they're fun. They're actually fun once you get to know them. So the thing about me and being in regular school, I became close to my teachers easily. Not because I want to use my connections to get high grades. It's just because I'm just so used to getting to know the teachers more, because they're also humans. So it was just difficult for me because I'm so used to being with my family. So I think that's the only difficult part. Like, I was just so used to being around my family that I get really sad when they eat breakfast outside and I'm in school, I'm doing schoolwork. But aside from that, I adapted to the environment.
Difficult. No. For my friends, I'm a talkative guy. Like, I may seem like I am what you would call in Tagalog masungit, but I'm actually a nice guy, surprisingly. And imagine this. I was late for my first day of classes. I ran from the terminal to the school because I was late. So I was drenched in sweat. I burst through the classroom door while our advisor was talking, and all of my classmates stared at me. With all those circumstances, you would say na, oh, that's harsh. Oh, nako, kaya yun. But for me, what I felt was, yes, I was in school. I was in a class. So I just sat down and I talked to people. The first guy that I talked to, his name was Josh. He was my best friend, and he's still my best friend up to this day. Hey Josh, alam mo in English kita masyado nun. And at that time, I was used to speaking in English. I would speak to him in English, he would reply in Tagalog, and hope for me to reply back in Tagalog, but I would reply in English, and I would go in for it. But anyway, it was not hard to transition. It was smooth, and I didn't even notice na I'm in a regular class again. I'm in a regular school again. It just felt normal.
Now, the interesting part, let's talk about the stereotypes. First is, we're social outcasts. We have no friends.
I would like to disagree because growing up in high school, I had a lot of friends. I was part of this group that arranged events for the high school, and during those events, I've met a lot of friends. So I wouldn't say I'm a social outcast, especially since if you consider the fact that I hosted a lot of events that Chloe got tired of my face na seeing me at every event. So yeah, that's it.
About the no friends, I actually liked homeschooling because then I would know who my real friends are. Because we're friends not because we see each other every day, but we're friends because we really are friends. And my homeschool best friend is Elle. Till this day, she is still my best friend, and we rarely see each other. Like, we rarely see each other. But I think that's what's great about it, because you get to grow even if you're not with each other. For social outcasts, again, I would disagree, but sometimes I don't like talking with people, but that's because that's my personality. Not because I didn't like people, but because sometimes I like being alone, sometimes I like to socialize. So it really depends on the person as well.
We can't talk in front of a large crowd because we're so used to being isolated. That is false. I hosted a lot of events in front of a crowd. That wasn't a solo event. It was with a live crowd.
I wouldn't say I'm isolated or I can't talk in a large crowd, because I did improve my public speaking skills when I was homeschooled. I don't know, maybe because of our portfolio reviews, or it just came naturally because I don't get nervous around people who aren't my age. The crowd is always very diverse. And yeah, that's basically it. We miss out on the high school experience. Then again, I'm gonna tell you guys, we did not miss out on the high school experience if that means socializing with other people. And the reason why we're making this video is because we had an amazing high school experience.
Because I was homeschooled during high school and actually had too much high school experience.
Your only friends are your siblings. First of all, I don't mind that my siblings are my only friends, if ever they are my only friends, because I really cherish and value my relationship with my siblings. But then again, I did have friends, although I'm the type of person who only has a few like close friends, because that really is me, and I only like to be in a small circle of friends, but I got to socialize with other people as well.
Okay, the next stereotype is we just stay at home. We study in a lot of places, coffee shops, our relative's house, and home is actually the least place we stay in when we were homeschooled.
So back when we were homeschooled, my kuya gets invited to speak about his experience because, again, he had a love and hate relationship with homeschooling. And one of his quotes were, "We're not just homeschooled, we're world schooled." I know a lot of homeschoolers who are homeschooled because they have to travel a lot. And we also don't just stay at home. Actually, that's the great thing about homeschooling is that we could study anywhere. And when we're done with our goals, we have more time to focus on our ministries. So, yeah, we don't just stay at home to study. Now that that's done, let's talk about the life of a homeschooler. How to stop homeschoolers from nibbling all the food in the pantry.
And the answer is simple. You can't. Homeschoolers love eating while they study. You have a car. You try to run the car without fuel. That's the same thing for homeschoolers. We can't study without our fuel, which is food. And we love eating while working.
Dad, I know this is your question. And the moment you chose to homeschool us, you chose this life. So there's no going back. Now let's talk about time. How do we manage our time?
I don't actually manage my time. I manage it based on things I have to do. Basically, it's a to-do list of the most important things first to the least important things. Because when you think about time, sometimes you pressure yourself with the time, but you end up pressuring yourself too much that you actually don't finish the goals. But what if you just take it piece by piece? Like, if I finish this, then this is next. If I finish this, then this is next. And then the next thing you'll know, you're done with your goals for today. Yeah, that's what happens with me.
How to stay focused when studying at home? I personally think that you have to know and observe yourself first. Because above all, you're the one who knows yourself the most, or you're the one who could actually construct your schedule because you know yourself the most. So when I was grade 7, that's the peak of my homeschooling life because I was so excited, I was so motivated because it's my first year of high school. For me, I can only focus when people are sleeping. For some reason, I don't know why, but I can only focus when people are sleeping. So what I do is I wake up at 5, I do my devotion, and I head downstairs and I cook rice. Yes, I cook rice. Why do I cook rice? Because that is my chore. And I want to cross off my chores so that I could focus on my school. I take advantage of the time when people are sleeping. That's the time when I study the most. I literally just focus on my studies because my goal was to finish my goals before breakfast. And surprisingly, I do finish my tasks and schoolwork before breakfast because when you set your mind on things, you can actually do it. It's doable. I have the rest of the day to do whatever I want. How to effectively set goals and stick to them.
It was a struggle for me because there's the TV and there's my dog. He's passed away now, but he was a big distraction for me because when I saw him, I wanted to take him for a walk and I wanted to, play with my dog. What kept me focused is out of all the things I wanted to do, I love playing games. If you're my friend, you know I love playing games. And here's the thing. We can't play video games if it's not the weekend when I was in high school. So imagine if I don't do my tasks today, it would pile up. Then it would pile up, then it would pile up, and eventually it would reach the weekends, which is something that I do not want. I want to play my games at the weekends. I don't want to study at the weekends. What I'm trying to say is find your motivation. Find something that would give you drive. And just stick to it.
Moving on. I could not emphasize enough how much questions we've received with this certain topic. Okay, hold up. You guys are gonna cringe whenever I say procrastinate instead of procrastinate. I've always written it or I've always read it as procrastinate, but I don't know how long I've been saying it as procrastinate. Okay, I cannot believe it took me 17 years before I realized that. Anyways, let's play a game of counting Chloe's mistakes. And this question is, how do we procrastinate and how to not procrastinate?
Homeschoolers are very hardworking, but when they procrastinate, it's something that you don't want to see. When I procrastinated, well, I was delayed, as in delayed. That's the downside, I think. The question is, how do we procrastinate? Well, that time when I was procrastinating, I was so lazy. Don't do this, homeschoolers. This is a bad example. I would set my goals to just, I would look for the pages of the books that were just for reading, not answering or anything. Tapos I would put them in my goal sheet. So, ang goals ko lang for the whole day is to read. And sometimes, not all the time, I don't even read it. Kasi I was like, babasahin lang yan. So, babasahin ko na lang bukas. And I would consider myself done. That's procrastinating. So, don't do that.
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer how to not procrastinate because till this day, I still tend to procrastinate at times a little bit too much. For some reason, this homeschooler Chloe, the reason why she procrastinates is because she watches how to not procrastinate videos. I don't know why. That's the reason why I procrastinate. So I think how to not procrastinate is take advantage of the days that you are productive. Do as much as you can. I promise you. Like, stay ahead of your goals. If you're done with your goals for the day, do more. Because take advantage of that so that you won't feel guilty whenever you slack on days that you feel lazy. Because
You're ahead.
you are ahead. So, yeah, that's my only tip. So, we're down to our last question. One lesson we've gotten from being homeschooled. So, I'll start.
Yeah, you start.
Okay, so I wrote it down. So, to keep God the main priority at all times, maintaining my relationship with Him, that means by obeying Him, even at times that I don't understand why. Because trust me, the rest would follow. I don't know. It just goes back to our parents' main purpose, and I'm glad that it has been fulfilled. Because the best thing that I learned in homeschooling is that with God being the center of everything, whenever I prioritize God, the rest really did follow. So my relationship with my siblings, my character, I know I'm not a perfect person, but homeschooling has allowed me to have more time to get to know God. Actually, Bible was my favorite subject.
Same.
So, till this day, the things that I learned in homeschooling, I could still go back to them and apply them. There are days when I stray away from the values and the lessons that I learned, but at the end of the day, I know that God is there to keep me back on track. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing that I've learned in homeschooling.
So one lesson I've learned from homeschooling, what I've learned from homeschooling is that even if you don't understand God's plan, as long as you follow His plan, even if it hurts you, like it's not what you want, just follow His plan because He knows what's best for you. When I started out in homeschooling, I thought it was cool, but I never really loved it at the start. I even had arguments with my parents that I wanted to go back to conventional school because I thought that homeschooling wasn't for me. But they know, because they prayed for it, they know that homeschooling is what God wanted for me. And in the end, I learned to realize that if I hadn't been homeschooled, I wouldn't have met the people that I have met. I wouldn't have the connections that I had. I wouldn't have the relationships that I had. I wouldn't have the lessons that I've learned. And I wouldn't be the person I am today. When I was in senior high, I was reminded with the same fact. It was like deja vu all over again. The same principles happened. I wanted to go to animation, but my parents saw that multimedia was a better option for me because it had a bigger scope. They prayed about it, and once again, God put into their hearts that multimedia was the track for me. It contradicted again. We got into arguments, but once again, I followed like I did during homeschooling. And as things went on, I kept following, and it led me to where I am today. I am studying in UP. I am at loss for words for what God has done for me. If I hadn't followed, I wouldn't have gotten here. He knew this was His plan all along, and He just wanted me to follow. So I highly advise you guys, please follow the Lord. Follow God, and everything will follow.
So, despite all the persecutions, the struggles, the doubts, with God being the center of everything, with God being ahead of everything, it was all worth it. And I would gladly do it all over again. We just want to say that homeschooling really wasn't easy, but as long as God is there, it's doable. Yeah. Okay, so that's all the questions that we can tackle today because this is already a lengthy video. It was already hard to edit. We hope you learned a lot about homeschooling based on our experiences. Thank you, Kuya, for being with me today. If you guys did not know, he is also a multimedia artist. Like, he focuses on filmmaking and
But
3D.
now it's turning towards music.
But you also do 3D art.
Yeah, I do 3D arts. So if you guys want to check out my Instagram,
I will link them down below. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!